Injuries YouTube channel. Today we're talking all about game weeks 4 captaincy picks, but just before we get into that discussion, just like to remind you, as usual, make sure to like the video. It helps us out. Comment below, maybe question our choices, or just get involved, ask us questions away, and subscribe to the channel as well, because you're not going to want to miss out. We're doing our usual deadline live stream this Saturday, so you won't want to miss out on that. You'll want to see the notification pop up, because we'll be helping you with any last minute injury news just before game week 4 starts. But yeah, let's get into these captaincy picks. Ben, who is your favourite for this game week, not including your team, because you've got a very differential team. So in terms of the best for the community.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the community on this one. Although my personal opinion is, I'm a little bit wary, but CR7, look, he's back in England. He's got points to prove. He's returning to the Premier League. He's 36 years of age. There are many questioning whether Ronaldo will be able to deliver at this level again. He's got something to prove. And against Newcastle, what better opponent to kick off your second homecoming, as it were. We're talking about a team, with defensively, not just this year, but the back end of last season have been pretty diabolical. And it's not a term that I use lightly, given it's my hometown club, but we have been poor, both to the eye and the underlying data indicates that we have the worst XG conceded. And for somebody like Manchester or Ronaldo and Manchester United, with their plethora of attacking talent, you cannot not see them capitalising on that. The one caveat, the one slight worry would be whether Cristiano actually does start. I have my reservations. I think the fact that he returned from international duty slightly earlier than initially thought, which allowed him to do that 5 days worth of quarantine and then join his new teammates a little bit earlier than originally hoped, stands him in good stead. And also, as it stands at the time of recording, United have also lost Fred as part of that United midfield, which could effectively mean, along with Scott McTominay being out, that Pogba is utilised as one of those double sixes in front of maybe Varane and Harry Maguire. So that potentially opens up a spot there for Ronaldo with Bruno, maybe Sancho, and Greenwood. But look, even if he doesn't start, we know the undoubted quality that he's got. You don't need me to tell you what he brings. And he's, whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, the guy is more than capable of bringing some offensive returns on his debut.
The thing is, as well, with this selection pick, Newcastle aren't especially good with aerial duels, and he's one of the best headers in the game, probably ever, and he's going to get excellent delivery from Luke Shaw. So there's a lot to love about that. The only worry that I have is who's going to be the goalkeeper for Newcastle that game. Is it still going to be Woodman, or is there like a Dubravka return on the cards?
As it currently stands, we're still looking at Freddie Woodman. And to be honest, I don't put a lot between the three goalkeepers at Newcastle, Dubravka, Carl Darlow and Woodman. I think they're all much of a muchness. Maybe Dubravka is a slightly ahead of that too, but he suffered a setback. He had surgery in the summer on a foot problem that had been nagging him for a while. That's become infected. And unfortunately, we're looking at a 6 to 8 week delay. So it's probably going to be October before we see him. And with Carl Darlow, he's suffering from long COVID. Now, that's something that the club just aren't able to give any kind of timeline on his potential return. So it looks like Woodman is locked in for the short term at the very least.
Yeah, and this is the thing. I mean, Dubravka, for me, is a very good goalkeeper. You see that he quite often overperforms his XG conceded, so that's why I was asking with him. But yeah, going from last season, Newcastle were the second bottom for XG conceded. They've continued to be so poor, and it has to be one of the kind of top picks. It's just whether you've got enough, I don't know, kahunas, as Troy Deeney would say, the departed Troy Deeney, to captain him this game week when it's not 100% sure if he will start. Another one that is possibly Not 100% certain. Maybe for playing the full 90 is Romelu Lukaku. There's a lot of love. He's been so fantastic this season. Really good data. But the problem with him is obviously he's carrying an injury. So in terms of maybe a fan team, if you're into that, it might be quite an interesting one that he might not get that 90 plus minute bonus. But there's a lot to love about the Lukaku situation. He's playing Aston Villa without Martinez. Martinez was fantastic, over 3.7 goals prevented last season in terms of XG. So he's really, really good. Also, I think Aston Villa just really struggled defensively. Matt Targett has not been at his best. Some of the underlying data of Aston Villa has been good, but who have they been playing? You know, Chelsea are really fantastic going forward, and I think Mason Mount has looked really, really good this season. So I'm positive that Lukaku will be getting a lot of good service as well. I mean, what are your thoughts and feelings on Lukaku? Is it a bit of a risk because of his injury, or do you think that he's still a solid pick for this game week?
Look, it is a risk. I mean, if we just take the injury out of the equation for the moment and just look at Lukaku in isolation as a player who would be, he's somebody else with unfinished business. So again, he's got a point to prove. He's got doubters. He came with a hefty price tag back to Chelsea, so he's going to want to repay that faith shown by the club and Thomas Tuchel, and he's hit the ground running in those first two games. He's been absolutely fantastic. The slight worry, the concern is that he's been managing a thigh problem for a few weeks now. Hasn't necessarily been evident from his performances domestically, but after the game for Belgium, he flagged up a slight concern and that he would go for a scan before returning to London. Now, in terms of the actual injury itself, if that hasn't been exacerbated at all, then he should be absolutely fine. The worry is, whether he's done a little bit of damage there, playing those sort of games in quick succession, or, the other concern or the other factor to maybe consider at this stage is Chelsea then going to Champions League mode midweek, and we've got 3 games, over the next sort of 7 to 8 days. So that's a consideration. And with players, a lot of strength and depth in that blue squad, if there are any slight worries and doubts, we've seen it before with Tuchel, there is absolutely no need to take any unnecessary risks. And he does have other options to be in there. So, look, I do like Lukaku pick, but it's not without, it's slight. It is tinged with that injury doubt, which may put some people off.
Yeah, and this is the thing, you might look at somebody who's definitely going to start, definitely fit. Maybe Mason Mount might be a good player as well, because he is the chief chance creator of the side. And also, fantastically, there's a 35% chance that Chelsea could have plus 2.5 goals in this game. So there is a good opportunity for a lot of goal scoring. And then maybe if Lukaku's not 100%, he might be rested or he might be managed, not given full minutes. Mason Mount might be the better option there. So kind of an extra captaincy option. But Ben, who else has kind of caught your eye? You said Ronaldo was your favourite, but there's a few others because there's a lot of good fixtures this game week.
There is, yes. And this one ticks a lot of boxes for me because it's slightly, well, I'm not going to say it's slightly different. It is differential, but again, it's not without its own problems and issues, and that's Ferran Torres. Obviously the Manchester City Spanish starlet, who's been fantastic this year. He's really, grasped his opportunity presented by Pep with both hands, and he's really impressed. And who doesn't love an out of position player? Of course, he's listed as a midfielder in the FPL game, and against a Leicester team. I mean, recent history would suggest that it'll be quite a tough game for City. I think Leicester have won 2 out of the last 3 times they faced each other. But, the harsh reality of the teams as it currently stands is a massive gulf in quality, a massive gulf in class, and also in current form. Leicester have been a massive disappointment so far this term. Now, granted, they may have 1 or 2 players coming back, particularly into that back line. Ryan Burton's been past fit. Johnny Evans is now training, and Yannick Vestergaard. However, those latter 2 players won't be 100%. So if Brendan Rodgers does decide to risk either one of those, then, there are opportunities there to be exploited by a Manchester City team. Like, these are one of the best attacking teams in the world. And even without potentially Gabriel Jesus, who could be ineligible due to the FIFA 5-day rule, you look at who they could bring in. Oh, it's Riyad Mahrez. Kevin De Bruyne is back on the training pitches. He could be a late addition. So there's so much strength in depth, and players like Ferran Torres are learning from that day in and day out on the training pitches. He's got himself a few goals for the national team with Spain. He's brimming with confidence, and this guy could be grown in stature. I mean, I've seen what he done on Tyneside at Newcastle with a hat-trick. He's got the skills in his locker, and if you present him with chances, he will take those opportunities.
And this is probably one of those opportunities of a hugely differential captain paying off, because, like we said there, Lukaku might have minutes managed, Ronaldo might have minutes managed, and Torres here, I don't think a lot of people will back him, but the kind of betting data backs this up as a really good opportunity. In fact, they've got a 63% chance of winning, even though they're away, and Leicester have just a 17% chance of winning. So there really is a gulf between these two teams at the moment that maybe a lot of people aren't recognising. And so I think that's a really excellent shout. I like Torres. I like watching his movement, even though he was absolutely wrecking my team, Arsenal. But it was a joy to watch. It was almost, dare I say it, Aguero-esque. I don't know if that's sacrilegious to say to Man City fans, or if that would fill them with delight. But let's move on to my next pick, and kind of the last pick for this game week. There could be other options, and like I said, please do comment below if you think that you've got a better option, a more audacious one. But I think Mo Salah has to be thrown in there. The problem is Leeds are very good at Ellen Road, but again, kind of looking at a lot of data and things like that, there's a high likelihood that this is going to be a very high scoring game. So I think Leeds are definitely in with a chance of challenging Liverpool. I don't think there's going to be a clean sheet from either team. And so, hopefully Rafinha plays in this 5-day rule thing, because I think he could be involved there. But, almost every game week you back somebody like Salah. Fixtures don't really faze him. He transcends whatever kind of difficulty his team are in, or the team that he is facing, because he scored against Chelsea. That was a spot kick, but he is on those situations there, so he can nick a naughty goal like that. But in terms of it as well, he's got a high number shots in the box. In fact, the second highest, drawing second there with a few other players. Fairly high, 1.39 XG, and a sixth best XGI. And so also Liverpool look good. They're underperforming their XG, so really you're saying they'll probably score more. They're shooting a lot. They're very selfish. Their forwards there, Mane, Salah. If they're near the goal, they're going to probably take a pop shot. So I like a lot about it. It is just that worry of, is this going to be the Leeds that stopped out the top six last season? I just have that inkling feeling that this could be like a 2-2 draw. I would back Leeds to possibly get a draw here, or get some sort of result, but I don't think it's going to be no goals at all. What do you think, Ben?
I fancy goals as well, and we still don't know how this international break and quarantine potentially coming back from amber list countries and those players who haven't been double jabbed will impact. I'm sure there are going to be one or two surprises along the way. One thing to watch, and for those who love the numbers, they may have seen some suggestion that Liverpool could really go there and do a job and win this at a canter. I think I've seen around about 37% chance of Liverpool scoring 2.5 goals in over. What I would say is, since Leeds came back into the Premier League, they've only conceded 3 goals on 2 occasions. Now, I'll give you the first one, Jason, and that was Leicester. I think they lost at home heavily. I think it was 4-1. Can you tell me the other team that actually scored 3 goals at Ellen Road last season? I'd be very impressed if you manage this one.
I mean, you look excited, so I have a feeling that maybe it might be Newcastle. That's my guess.
I mean, it is a good guess because we've always had a good record. I think the Newcastle, I'm sure we got beat 5-2, if memory serves me correct. The reason I had a bit of a wry smile there because it came from a quite an unexpected source in it was Fulham. I think Leeds won that game 4-3. So notoriously, Leeds tend to keep running a pretty tight ship, particularly against that big six, and that would be the worry. I mean, obviously I do own Mo Salah. Am I going to actually pull the trigger and have him as my captain again? I'm not so sure. I do like him. Liverpool's form, his form. Um, but I don't know. I'm very, very just wary of this game week in terms of availability of players and hopefully just getting a starting 11 out there on the pitch.
Yeah, I think this is one of the fascinating things this game week is a lot of people are going to be worried if they can even field an 11 because of the COVID restrictions and things coming into place. I just have one kind of last summary question for you, Ben. Do you think that this is actually one of the most difficult game weeks to find a captain? Because it's almost flattering to deceive a lot of these fixtures. You know, the Newcastle one, maybe Fernandes might be a better option than Ronaldo because we know he will definitely start. And if Ronaldo doesn't start, he'll be on those penalties, he'll be on those set pieces. Chelsea, yes, Lukaku looks good, but will he play the full 90 minutes? He might be rested. Liverpool against Leeds, I think people run away with the narrative that Leeds are very poor defensively, but this is Elland Road. And then, like with the Man City thing, people might overlook how good Man City are and maybe how poor Leicester have been. And, let's talk about, we've also missed out the two sides from North London, Spurs and Arsenal. That there is a few maverick options out there. And I think it makes for a very interesting game week. And maybe for you, as Mr. Differential Dinnery, there is no template, there is no clear option.
I think if you're just to look at those fixtures in isolation, purely black and white, you would think that there's a plethora of options out there. But scratching beneath the surface, looking to give a little bit of context, red list, amber list, quarantine, double jabbed, injury, suspension, those returning late from international duty. We've already heard from 7 Premier League managers at the time of recording on Thursday. Every one of those managers has turned around and said, the players which have come back so far are fine, but we still have several who are yet to return to the training pitches. Some of that won't happen until Friday. Sean Dyche, for example, that won't happen until Saturday. Granted, Burnley don't play until Monday, but what it means is we're just not able to make any concrete decisions safe in the knowledge that these players are fit and available, because even though they may have come through 90 minutes, you don't know if there's been any kind of post-match reaction. You don't know how they are in terms of fatigue. You don't know what travel has been like, covering, especially again, with border control and security and so on and so forth, and delays, and nothing is straightforward these days. So it's a great opportunity for people within the community and within your mini leagues to pick somebody different and gain some ground and get that bit of momentum. Because, like I say, I think there are a few curveballs just waiting around the corner this game week. Definitely, this is, for me, this has been one of the most difficult game weeks that I can ever remember. But I also see it as maybe one as being the most exciting in terms of potential and throwing up that golden gem if you can just pick it.
Yeah, this is the reason why we do these podcasts, because I think you approach FPL in a very different way. You're very good at identifying maybe outliers and players that might be coming up. I remember you called out Cancelo, Diaz last season, way before anybody else had, and that there was a few great differential dinnery picks, and that's why you enjoy it, because you like being the guy to go, well, I called it, I said so a few weeks ago, and that's what's really fun about it.
It's called having big kahunas, Jason.
Yeah.
Is that on the YouTube suspended word watch list?
I don't think so. I mean, that was probably near the mark, though, just having that mental image of how big they are. But anyway, let's move into the end of the show. And I hope people have enjoyed, our silly banter, but also at the same time have enjoyed our insights into Game Week 4, one of the most difficult game weeks I think we've had for a very long time. I'm going to wish everybody the best of luck. I'm also going to ask you, please do subscribe to the channel. Make sure to like the video and comment below. We love getting involved with you, having little discussions, little debates about picks and where to go forward. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye and see you next week.